Stop the sprinklers, Britain's most famous gardens are about to dry out. Yes, you read that right. The very lawns where King Charles has spent decades coaxing rare orchids into bloom and lecturing weeds about organic harmony will soon crunch like cornflakes underfoot, thanks to the toughest hosepipe ban Thames Water has dared to impose in a generation. The order drops next Tuesday, awkwardly, the exact day Prince George turns 12, and suddenly half of the home counties must swap roses for cacti, or face a £1,000 fine. Now here's where the plot thickens faster than a July heat haze. While His Majesty must stand by and watch Highgrove's legendary topiary droop, William and Catherine, less than an hour's drive away, may carry on watering as merrily as ever. Not because they begged for an exemption. Not because they're next in line to the throne. Simply because an invisible line on the postcode map spares Adelaide Cottage by a whisker. If ever a drought exposed the capriciousness of fate, this is it. The royal gardens at stake. To grasp why horticulturalists are currently hyperventilating, you need to picture Highgrove in its full July pomp. 30-odd years ago Charles inherited a perfectly pleasant, but uninspired Gloucestershire estate. He promptly ripped out the boring bits, planted wildflower meadows, dug a time walk that smells like grease after a summer shower, and installed a copper water lily fountain large enough to refresh a regiment of cavalry horses. Everything, even the nettles, are there because Charles willed it. And everything relies, sooner or later, on a discreet network of hoses, taps and lovingly collected rain barrels. Next door in Wiltshire, Queen Camilla guards Raymill House with equal devotion. Locals joke she can tell if a hydrangea is sulking before her security team spots a trespasser. Her ornamental lake, filled with rescued ducks, glimmers at sunset like a Turner painting. Raymill's roses, fat, blousy, unapologetically fragrant, have won more behind-the-scenes compliments than half the Chelsea flower show. Yet both properties fall squarely under postcode areas soon to be policed by Thames Water's drought wardens. One illicit spray gun, one stealthy sprinkler used after dusk, and even a monarch could theoretically face a fine large enough to buy Camilla a new pair of Chanel boots. The quirk that saves Adelaide Cottage. Meanwhile, wander 50 miles east to Windsor Great Park, and you'll find Adelaide Cottage, the picture-book residence William and Catherine now call home. Its roses. Still drip-fed. Its paddling pool. Still free to host Prince Louis's boisterous cannonball displays. Why? Because the ban stops short of their postcode by a matter of 3 river bends. Geography, dear friends, not genealogy. The result is deliciously ironic. George will celebrate his birthday able to hose down his football boots without fear of a £1,000 penalty, while Grandpa Charlie must watch his delphiniums perish. No surprise, then, that palace courtiers are already bracing for potshots on social media. One rule for Pa, another for Wills. Not quite, but nuance seldom survives the viral meme. William and Catherine, say insiders, will quietly trim their water use anyway. Expect discreet rainbutts, mulching experiments, maybe even a photo op with Charlotte brandishing a watering can the size of a teapot. Optics matter, especially when you're grooming a future king and queen who preach environmental common sense. A drought worthy of Shakespearean tension. Behind the scenes, aides describe a mood of faintly Shakespearean tension. Charles, so often caricatured for waffling about climate change, now finds himself living the sermon. One equerry recounts the moment the monarch read the Thames Water press release. He stared at the paper, sighed and muttered, "Well, the garden will have to fend for itself, won't it?" Then he asked how fast we could convert every spare bucket into a rain collector. Expect Highgrove tours this summer to feature fewer roses and more artisanal water barrels labeled "Save Every Drop" for the dahlias. Camilla, by contrast, has taken a pragmatic tack, kneelers and knee pads out, pots dragged into shade, weekly chat with Raymill's head gardener about which borders must survive, and which can be sacrificed. One housekeeper joked, "Her Majesty's hydrangeas are more closely guarded than crown jewels." Yet there's a hint of humor. She's reportedly designing a discreet sign for the front gate, "Arid Mill House, proudly parched." Thames Water's tightrope. Spare a thought for Thames Water, whose post-privatization woes already provoke armchair outrage when a single pipe bursts. Now they must enforce what they call a progressive restrictions framework, while plugging 600 million litres of leakage per day. Yes, you heard that number correctly. If you are one of the unfortunate RG9 residents banned from rinsing your dusty Mini, you might reasonably ask why 500 million litres vanish into the soil every 24 hours. Company spokesman, suddenly experts at contrite grimacing, promise accelerated infrastructure spending. Critics retort, "After my lawn looks like the Hadley cell." Eco-optics for a modern monarchy. For Charles, the ban is equal parts headache and public relations opportunity. This is the king who published Harmony, who turned his Aston Martin into a bioethanol curiosity, who installed heat pumps at Clarence House. Letting Highgrove go, artistically brown, could become a living billboard for water conservation. Picture Instagram drone shots of Golden Meadows captioned, "Let nature sleep," with a royal seal in the corner. Cynics will sneer, environmentalists will cheer, columnists will dine out for weeks. William, for his part, has spent the last 3 years fashioning himself into the practical eco-heir, Earthshot prize, electric scooter commutes, recycled Bond premiere tuxedos. The optics of continuing to water Adelaide's borders, technical exemption or not, could undercut that brand. Watch for a carefully choreographed family stroll next week. George kicking a football across a slightly crisp lawn, while Catherine praises local wildflowers resilient to drought. Agenda set, cameras clicked, message sent, we, too, are going brown. A kingdom of buckets and barrels. Outside palace walls, ordinary Britons are already improvising. In Oxfordshire villages, downpipes gurgle into improvised rain cisterns. Grandparents teach grandchildren the lost art of the jug flush. Car wash fundraisers swap hoses for soapy rags. Even Henley-on-Thames rowers have been warned to limit outdoor tap usage at the boathouse. One retired colonel was spotted lugging bathwater onto his rhododendrons at dawn, muttering, "If it's good enough for the Queen's daughter-in-law, it's good enough for me." What happens if the skies stay stubbornly blue? Meteorologists warn England's southeast could endure the driest July-August pair since 1976. If reservoirs dip below the dreaded 30% threshold, Stage 2 restrictions may follow, pool closures, pressure reductions, maybe even standpipes in worst-hit hamlets. That would drag the Waleses into the same misery index as the monarch, postcodes be damned. Highgrove's lawns would surrender first, Adelaide's would not be far behind. A unifying drought, how very British. The narrative to watch. For now, the peculiar postcode twist gifts royal watchers a neat study in comparative PR. Will Charles allow photographs of a browning Highgrove to circulate, reinforcing his ecological credo? Will William voluntarily throttle taps, sacrificing George's slip and slide to avoid accusations of do-as-I-say hypocrisy? Will Camilla's cherished lake evaporate into tabloid schadenfreude, or inspire a feature on sustainable microhabitats? Each decision becomes a small referendum on modern monarchy, a living test of whether royals merely preach environmental duty from marble terraces, or shoulder the same sacrifices as their subjects. Postcodes may save Adelaide today, but perception often outranks plumbing. And so, as hosepipe patrol vans begin their rounds, the nation waits. Barbecue smoke hangs in the air, neighbors swap drought hacks, and somewhere inside Buckingham Palace a footman tiptoes away with the last printed draft of the King's Emergency Garden Resilience Plan. If summer showers arrive, this saga will evaporate like steam off warm stone. If not, expect headlines reading Palace petunias perish as royals join the rest of U.S.